Sonic Adventure is my favorite Sonic game of all time. I know that's a very blunt opening, but let me explain. Sonic Adventure is, in my opinion, everything Sonic done right, from gameplay to story to length, etc. I wouldn't call this a normal 2020 view, as it's going to be more of an overview of the game rather than our normal format. In other words, it isn't going to be as in-depth. But with that said, let's get into it. To start us off, we have 6 playable characters: Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Big, and Gamma. There's technically a 17th character, but we'll get into that. Only Sonic is available from the start, and you'll have to unlock the other characters. Each character has a different style of gameplay. Sonic has the most normal gameplay style, let's just get to the goal as fast as possible, which is a direct translation from the classic games before it, where, well, you get to the goal as fast as you could. Tails' style is get to the goal before the other character. It's essentially like a race, which is likely based off of how Tails would follow Sonic and try and keep up with him in the classic games before it. Knuckles' gameplay style is find all of the shards of the Master Emerald. This may be based off the fact that Knuckles had hidden passageways in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, though I'd like to think it's more original. Amy's gameplay style is get to the goal without the robot catching you. This could be based off the fact that she was captured in Sonic CD by Metal Sonic, but again, I like to believe that it's more original. Big's gameplay style is fishing for Froggy. Now, they could have had it be, since Big is kinda slower and doesn't jump as high, that you'd have to solve puzzles to get to different platforms and you'd have to run and actually chase Froggy, but instead, it's fishing. Gamma's gameplay is get to the goal while shooting enough targets so you have enough time. This was actually based off of requests from fans for Sonic to have a gun. The physics in this game are incredibly fluid. It's, in my opinion, a perfect translation of Sonic's physics from the classic games. Sonic's physics are exactly like you'd expect. Fast, slightly floaty, and a good balance of slippery and tight. Each character, other than Big, roughly follows the same principle for their physics. Except Tails can fly, Knuckles can glide, Gamma can hover and shoot, Amy is slow but has special moves with her hammer, and we've already established that Big can't jump as high and doesn't run as fast. But beside those factors, they play essentially the same. Then we get on to the technical 7th character of the game, which is Super Sonic. He only has one, I guess, game, as it's referred to. Essentially, it's the final battle against Chaos, the main villain. The reason why it's a technical 7th character is A, it's still Sonic, and B, it only has one level to its name. There's no hub world that you can go in as Super Sonic, and there's no other levels. So, it's referred to more as a mini-game than an actual playable character or story. The levels in this game are incredibly well designed. There are multiple pathways through them, and I've never gotten lost in a level, as they're rather easy to understand. But they're not too easy, but they're not too hard. The levels are a good balance of challenging but not too difficult, and I find tons of replayability in them, as they're just fun to play again. Plus, there's a ranking system that gives you an incentive to get better at the levels each time you play to get a higher rank. This ranking system is still used today in Sonic games, as recently as Sonic Frontiers. My favorite gameplay style has to be Gamma's run-and-gun style of gameplay. I just wish he got more levels. And that leads me to the length of the game. Sonic has the longest story and the rest of the characters' stories are shorter. This is the first and, for me, the only and mainly weak point of this game, as unique characters such as Gamma only get a few levels. Although, it is good that we didn't get as many stages for Big, as that could have been a bit of a headache. Now, I did say earlier that the game had a good length, but I meant that more for Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles' stories. The other 3 characters just didn't have enough time as they should have, other than maybe Big. The graphics in this game are incredible. I'd say that they've really held up over time, even though I try to not mention the for the time and that sort of thing, but the graphics really have held up. I know that a lot of people like to poke fun at Sonic's funny faces during the cutscenes, but I'd rather have that than in Mario 64, where Mario literally didn't even have a mouth when he spoke. But, back on topic, the lighting in this game is honestly pretty impressive. I'm talking about the Dreamcast version though. DX looks pretty horrible. They made the characters look like cheap McDonald's toys. But on the topic of looks, the way the characters look in this game has to be my favorite design for them. Sonic is a darker blue with long spikes and green eyes, but his proportions aren't too different from classic Sonic's. He's just a bit taller and thinner, and I think it really works. Same goes for the rest of the characters. This is my favorite design for them. And there's actually something cool to note about Robotnik's design in this game. His jacket has gold reflective details and silver reflective buttons. They would later be changed to yellow details and white buttons after this game. The music in this game is fantastic. There is not a track in this game I don't like. My favorite has to be the Robotnik and Gamma songs. Crank Up the Heat, Militant Missionary, Gamma's theme, etc. They're just all standouts in my mind. Some tracks even remix music from Sonic 3D Blast, which is something interesting to note. This is a bit of a hot take, but I think that the voice acting is actually really good in this game. I know many people criticize the voice acting in this game, but I have to say, it's actually pretty well done, especially for Robotnik. Dean Bristow did an incredible job with Robotnik. You can really just hear the anger in Robotnik's speech. But overall, Sonic Adventure has to be my favorite Sonic game of all time. In my opinion, it's just everything Sonic done right. I do have a few nitpicks like the length of other characters' stories, but that's not too much of a big deal. When the worst thing about a game is that it has nitpicks, I'd say that that's an accomplishment. I give the game a 20 out of 20. I highly recommend it if you haven't played it. Although, I'd advise to stay away from the DX version. Either get or emulate the Dreamcast version, or get the Steam version and use the Dreamcast conversion mods. I'll link a video in the description on how to do that. I hope we get another game like Sonic Adventure in the future. Now, Sonic Frontiers I would say is a step in the right direction, but I do miss Station Square. I hope Sega brings it back one day.